Josh Jacobs. We're now into our burning question segment of the AFC West. And my question is, Josh Jacobs, will he be a viable fantasy running back this season, or will you just be dancing like that if you draft him?
It was kind of a perfect video, right, to encapsulate,
really
which is why we ran it.
Yeah.
But look, I think Josh Jacobs, there's just too much bad juju around him. A lot of bad juju. And he doesn't have ties to this current regime.
Nope.
Looks like they're going to move on from him. I'm not really sure who I would want as a running back to replace him in terms of fantasy. But look, same things we talked about with Russell Wilson. They're going to be throwing the ball a lot. They have the lowest win total in the AFC West. They got a lot of mouths to feed on that offense. And look, we talk about guys like Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow suffering from Davante Adams. I think it's more Josh Jacobs and those types who are going to suffer from Adams being there. So, yeah, I don't want any part of Josh Jacobs, and I don't think you do either.
Absolutely not. He made the hate list for me this year. He made the hate list last year. I was right last year. He is somebody that is volume and touchdown dependent. And so he had a better year last year than I think people expected, certainly better than I did. Still wasn't a great year. I mean, he had two 20-point PPR performances, weeks 13 and 18. Like he sort of kind of got there on volume last year, and he stayed healthy, credit to him. But the fact is that we don't expect the passing game work to be there. He actually got passing down usage last year. And I don't expect that to happen this year. I think Amir Abdullah is going to have the James White role. You think about Josh McDaniels coming from the Patriots, right? There were only 3 seasons. Josh McDaniels was the offense coordinator of the Patriots for 13 years. And in only 3 of those 13 years did one running back have more than 130 carries. Josh Jacobs has had 130 more carries in every year that he's been a Raider. I just think it's a mix and match sort of thing. I was out there at the Hall of Fame game, the very first game of the season. Like even the Jaguars, they weren't playing Trevor Lawrence. They weren't playing anyone that they cared about. Like Derek Carr didn't play, Davante Adams didn't play. Josh Jacobs got the first 2 series. They're like, go on, we don't care, whatever. Right? So I'm super nervous. I think it's a running back by committee. I don't think he gets the volume that he needs. And so without the passing game usage, without the volume, touchdowns, it's hard to say. To me, I think he is a fade at his current ADP of running back 22. Yahoo has him going 45th overall. I'm 64th overall. Just to give you an idea, massive disparity between myself and where people on Yahoo are drafting him.
Yeah, I'd rather have A.J. Dillon, just to name one name, J.K. Dobbins if he's going to be healthy. I was going to ask, though, do you think in America there are 2 people who spent more time last week talking about Amir Abdullah than you and I did on our show? So I think we gave 7 minutes to Amir Abdullah and Kenyon Drake. But look, I think Amir Abdullah, I think he's going to get that third down work, like you say. And just the last thing on the Raiders, I think
I'd rather invest a late round pick in Zamir White than a 5th round pick on Josh Jacobs. Go ahead, what were you saying?
Certainly. I was going to say with Hunter Renfrow, I think people have cooled on because of Davante Adams. They think that Davante Adams is going to cut into his targets, but 195 targets last year went to Zay Jones, Deshaun Jackson, Henry Ruggs, and Brian Edwards. All those guys are gone. So I think that Hunter Renfrow is still going to get a very steady diet. So will Waller, so will Adams. The team's going to throw a lot, so I wouldn't be worried about the receivers there. Now, moving on to the Chargers, the question is on Justin Herbert. Can he eclipse his projected 4,700 yards of passing? Because he's currently the favorite to lead the NFL in passing at plus 650.
See, I think he can. And you know why I think he can? Because he actually has already done it.
Yeah.
He
5,014
last year. He's already done it.
Big number.
I mean, again, it's a big number. We have to readjust our brains because there's an extra game here. So all the numbers that you sort of know in your head about, wow, 4,700 is a lot. And it is a lot. But it's not as much when you've got 17 games to get there.
Plus, teams just pass more now. So you've got new passing environment and an extra game. So now 4,000 yards is bad, really, for an elite quarterback. So,
and by the way, you breathe on a guy and you get a flag.
Yes.
I mean, in terms of all the rules that the NFL has instituted are all geared towards making this easier to throw, more of an offensive game, more fun, more fan-friendly, everything like that. So, look, you get asked, who are this year's Bengals? And obviously the Chargers didn't win only 4, they were right there to the end, they came down to that last game against the Raiders to make the playoffs. So they're not like a 4-win team that can go to the Super Bowl. But what's that team that can take the next step, that can really have an elite offense? And there's a short list of teams. I would say the Colts are on that list. I think the Vikings are on that list, as we've talked about. but the Chargers are absolutely at the top of that list.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's what I flagged in the previous segment about Justin Herbert, and here's what I think will shock some people is that in terms of what goes into the betting lines, and we rate every quarterback and how much they add to the line, we rate Justin Herbert as the best quarterback in the NFL. Above Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, everyone. We think he is the best quarterback in the NFL, and here's why. Last year, 5,014 yards, 38 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. That's a pretty good line. He was the unluckiest quarterback in the entire league. No team dropped more passes than the Chargers, and no team or player got more unlucky with interceptions than Justin Herbert and the Chargers. So he was really, really good last year, and he has so much more upside to come. He also did that in his second season.
Right.
So they have so many weapons. They have an improved offensive line. I think the Chargers are a looming juggernaut, and I think that Justin Herbert is a very, very big chance to win MVP this year.
What are the odds of that?
Plus 900. So he's
like
just
that
behind.
bet.
Yeah, he's just behind Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, who are projected to win more games. But look, Herbert is right there, and I think that we're going to be talking about him in the same breath as guys like Mahomes very, very soon.
I have him at QB3. I don't have much difference between. I have Allen at 1, Mahomes at 2, Herbert at 3, but they're all right there. And I think that if you were doing a dynasty draft today, and you took Justin Herbert as the number 1 quarterback, I don't think people should look at you weird. I get that Josh Allen probably goes number 1, and Mahomes, that's probably how it goes in Dynasty. Allen, Mahomes, Herbert, they're all right there, especially in Superflex leagues. But Herbert is, again, a little bit younger, and I'm with you. As good a quarterback.
Rushing threat as well.
Has the rushing threat as well. Not like Josh Allen, but he is more mobile than he gets. By the way, just to be clear, just to clear something up for our audience here, when you say Justin Herbert got unlucky last year, you're talking about football. You're not talking Zach Wilson type lucky. You're talking about specifically football, related things that, just
I don't think Justin Herbert got unlucky on that front either.
No, probably not. I mean, who knows? We don't know. But anyway, like Zach Wilson, a very lucky quarterback last year in some aspects. Justin Herbert,
some
unlucky last year.
Aspects.
Right. So, exactly. Let's move on now to Kansas City. And so much has been talked about. We talked about Kelsey in the last segment, and so much has been talked about, the moving on of Tyreek Hill, and is it going to be Juju, and how, is Sky Moore a thing, and what about MVS, and where does Mecole Hardman fit in, blah, 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 blah. A lot about that. But to me, I think the Chiefs running backs is probably the biggest question for fantasy managers these days. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he's going the highest among all running backs, 27th on Yahoo. I'm at 34. He's going 61st overall. I have him at 91. So you can tell I'm out on CEH. Isaiah Pacheco, who's become a thing this preseason, 7th round pick. He's going as running back 51 on Yahoo. 150th overall. I'm at 64. And then Jerick McKinnon, who was not ranked by Yahoo, is not being drafted. I'm at running back 60. So where are you on these Chiefs running backs?
Yeah, I'm out. I think that two of the past 3 years, there hasn't been a single Chiefs running back to go for more than 558 yards. And so I think that we're in for year 3 out of 4 of that. I think the days of Jamal Charles and Kareem Hunt are clearly over. This is a heavy passing offense. I want to like Clyde Edwards-Helaire because he was taken high in the draft, and he is the presumptive number 1 back on a team that is going to score maybe more than any team in the league. I want to like him to win the rushing title like 150-1, but I just can't get there because he's not going to. It's going to be a committee. It's going to be all of these guys who are racking up between 400 and 600 yards, and fantasy-wise, I think it's just a graveyard, and I would stay away.
I agree. I think it's going to be a running back by committee on a team that wants to be pass-heavy. It's going to be a pass-first team. Again, it's sort of similar to what we were talking about with the Rams the other day, right? If you're going to take a stab at this particular team, like why not, or even I guess the Rams segment 1, that all runs together. Sorry. What we're talking about with the Rams in segment 1, which is like, give me the lower guy. Like I'll take a dart throw on Isaiah Pacheco late at my draft, a dart throw on Jerick McKinnon, who I think is going to be used more. Like he looked good during the playoffs last year. McKinnon did. And I think he could be more of the passing down back. Here's the thing. If Isaiah Pacheco becomes a thing, and I think there's still some questions about his patience and his vision going back to his days at Rutgers, but if he can learn that and become a thing, then okay. CEH is never going to become the lead running back of the Chiefs. Like he's had that opportunity. He hasn't grasped it. And so there's a chance, I don't know how good it was because they like CEH on some level and they're going to use McKinnon. But there's a chance that at some point in the second half of the year, Pacheco becomes the guy and is getting all the goal line work. And so I don't mind taking a flyer there, PPR league. I don't mind in a deeper PPR league. I don't mind a flyer on Jerick McKinnon. I'm not convinced Ronald Jones makes this team.
No. There's too many questions about the running back committee in general. I agree that Pacheco is the guy that you want just because he has the upside and just because there's no really daunting incumbent.
Right.
Like there is for someone like Isaiah Spiller when he comes back from injury. You can't really displace Austin Eckler. You can displace Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So there is that rookie upside.
There's a path to playing time for Isaiah Pacheco. But
is.
Again, we think it's a three-headed monster on a team that's going to throw.
Definitely. Okay, Denver Broncos. Will Javonte Williams be a league-winning running back?
I'll ask you another question. Will Melvin Gordon get hurt this year?
Well, here's the thing, right, is that the reason I love Javonte Williams is that he has a high floor. I think his worst-case scenario, health permitting, is basically what he did last year, which was fine. Then he also has a high ceiling. Because if Melvin Gordon gets hurt, how many guys are more valuable in fantasy than Javonte Williams? Without Melvin Gordon, Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey, anyone else?
Maybe Eckler.
Maybe Eckler.
Okay. Maybe Eckler, maybe a healthy Dalvin Cook, a healthy Derrick Henry.
But he's in the mix.
He's in that conversation.
Yep.
He's in that top 5 running back conversation. There's no question about it. I think everyone in fantasy was ready to put Javonte Williams in their top 5, and then Melvin Gordon re-signed with the Broncos.
Yep.
And so now, look, Nathaniel Hackett, has talked about the fact he's talked up Melvin Gordon. Melvin Gordon has said they want to make Javonte the guy. And then on August 24th, so last week, Broncos head coach Nathaniel Hackett said, quote, "This is about Melvin Gordon, mind you. When he comes out there, he looks like a big, strong running back, and we're just excited to feed him the rock and give him the ball a lot." Again, this was a committee last year. My guess is, and I don't know where the betting lines have it at the moment, but I would say if I had to pencil in a projection, I would say 65-35. Williams to Gordon. Like, they do want Williams to be the guy, and he's the more explosive player at this part of their career. But Melvin Gordon last year looked pretty good. Looked in good shape. And so I think, look, I'm at running back 15. He's going at running back 14 overall. Like, that's where he is. I think he's a mid-tier RB2, but to your point, he has potentially league-winning upside if something were to happen to Melvin Gordon. The problem, you just can't know.
No, you can't know. And look, the thing with Javonte Williams is talked about Derrick Henry and the broken missed tackle percentage back in segment 2. Javonte Williams led the league in that statistic last season. He was basically the most explosive running back in terms of breaking tackles and making guys miss. So he clearly has the talent. If he has the opportunity, then he can win your league. Now,
Javonte Williams is going around like he's going around with where Ezekiel Elliott is, where a little bit at basically around ahead of Cam Akers. And, I mean, like in terms of the guys of where he's going behind Leonard Fournette. You could make,
I'd rather have Javonte because of the upside.
There's upside there.
Now,
Fournette's probably safer, but yeah.
The last question on the Broncos, Courtland Sutton v. Jerry Jeudy. I think we're aligning Courtland Sutton being the guy there.
Courtland Sutton, we've seen it before. Courtland Sutton was a top 20 fantasy wide receiver in 2019. He had Joe Flacco and Drew Lock as his quarterbacks. And so massive upgrade. As we've talked about, think about, again, Cooper Kupp last year. Don't underestimate the ability of a quarterback upgrade to improve a fantasy wide receiver's production. My concern on Jerry Jeudy, he's had 169 targets in last year. He had 3 touchdowns.
It's not great.
He had no touchdowns his rookie year. He's been in the NFL for 2 years. I think 26 games he's played. He's got 3 touchdowns. Like, again, I get it. He's had bad quarterback play. But for someone drafted as high as he was, with a pedigree he had coming out of college, to have only 3 touchdowns through 2 NFL seasons.
You want to see more. And it's not like Teddy Bridgewater was awful
last
season. He was totally fine.
Right, exactly.
And the other thing, too, is Russell Wilson. What does he do well? What does he do better than any other quarterback in the league? He throws deep. I think that helps Courtland Sutton's skill set more than Jerry Jeudy. So I'm with you.
Again, if you want to kind of lazy analysis here, but if you sort of look at what Russell had in Seattle, like Courtland Sutton is built a lot more like DK Metcalf, and Jerry Jeudy's a little bit more like Tyler Lockett, and that's probably how this works out. Will there be some good games, some boom-bust games for Jerry Jeudy? Sure. But in terms of consistent production, the guy that is probably most likely to get red zone looks, it's Courtland Sutton. So give me him over Jerry Jeudy, and I don't think it's particularly close.
Yep, agreed.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBC Sports and RotoWorld.com. Just want to thank you so much for watching what you just watched, or at least being too lazy to click out of it after the autoplay just kept it going. So either way, Thank you so much for just letting it scroll by your screen. And now I'd like to ask you respectfully, okay? Respectfully, please subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel for the latest NFL news, fantasy headlines from Roto-World, and betting analysis from NBC Sports Edge.